The compulsive liar moves through the world as if reality itself is malleable, a continuous performance shaped by half-truths, omissions, and fabrications. Lying is not always about malice or gain. Often it is an unconscious pattern, a response to fear, inadequacy, or the deep human need to protect self-image. To witness a compulsive liar is to notice the tension between truth and invention, honesty and survival. Every story, every gesture, every carefully constructed narrative reflects a mind in negotiation with itself, a mind trying to reconcile reality with perceived expectations, judgment, or threat. This is the psychology of the compulsive liar, a study of patterns, motivations, and consequences. It is a journey into human fragility, the unseen mechanisms of self-preservation, and the emotional landscape of a mind caught between truth and deception. The compulsive liar is often subtle, a master of quiet distortions that slip into everyday life. At first glance, their behavior may appear harmless, even charming, an embellishment here, a small omission there. Yet these small deviations from truth are rarely occasional. They form a persistent pattern, a rhythm that shapes interactions, perception, and reality itself. Recognition begins with observation. The compulsive liar stories may shift when retold, details may expand or contract, and inconsistencies arise not out of forgetfulness but habit. They often embellish to impress, deflect, or avoid scrutiny. Lies are not always grand or malicious. They can be simple exaggerations of experience, small distortions to avoid conflict, or subtle shifts to shape how others perceive them. Emotion reveals the pattern. The compulsive liar may exhibit a mixture of confidence and tension, a dance between self-assurance and anxiety. Smiles can be rehearsed, gestures slightly off, pauses timed to avoid contradiction. Even when the lie is small, there is a psychological cost: vigilance, mental energy, and subtle fear of discovery that leaves traces in voice, posture, and expression. Habitual deception is rarely conscious in every instance. For many compulsive liars, lying has become an automatic coping mechanism. From childhood or formative experiences, they may have learned that truth carries risk, judgment, rejection, or failure, while falsehood offers protection or advantage. Over time, this behavior is reinforced, becoming a default mode of navigating social landscapes. Recognition also involves relational impact. Others often feel subtle unease, confusion, or distrust even when lies are minor. Trust, the foundation of relationships, is undermined incrementally. Friends, family, and colleagues may notice contradictions or inconsistencies that do not fit, producing doubt, tension, or hesitation. These effects, though subtle, accumulate over time, shaping the social environment around the compulsive liar. Patterns of lying can vary in form. Some lie to impress, to appear more accomplished, knowledgeable, or socially acceptable. Others lie to avoid punishment, disappointment, or confrontation. Some distort to deflect attention from perceived inadequacies, while others lie out of habit, without a clear goal, an almost reflexive response to social interaction. Across these forms, the underlying psychology is consistent. Deception functions as a tool for self-protection, self-preservation, and self-presentation. Subtle cues often accompany these behaviors: vague details, shifting stories, excessive justification, or defensive reactions when questioned. Even when the liar is adept, close observation reveals small inconsistencies. A pause too long, a glance away, a hesitation before answering. These cues are not signs of malevolence, but of the mental burden carried by someone who constantly negotiates between reality and fabrication. Recognition of compulsive lying is the first step toward understanding. It is not merely a moral judgment, but an observation of psychological patterns, the ways fear, insecurity, and self-perception shape behavior. By noticing the rhythm of distortion, the interplay of truth and invention, and the subtle emotional traces left behind, one begins to see the compulsive liar not as a caricature, but as a human being navigating complex internal and external pressures. In observing this pattern, we gain insight into the mechanisms of self-protection and the cost of habitual deception. The compulsive liar's world is one of constant negotiation between truth and invention, vulnerability and self-preservation, exposure and concealment. Recognition is the doorway into this world, the first step toward deeper understanding of why lies become habit and how they ripple through relationships, perception, and identity. Compulsive lying rarely emerges without cause. It is often a reflection of the inner world, shaped long before adulthood by family, environment, and early experiences. To understand the compulsive liar, one must trace the origins, those subtle and not so subtle forces that teach the mind to bend reality as a means of survival, protection, or self-preservation. Childhood is often the first stage where patterns take root. Some compulsive liars grew up in environments where truth was punished or dismissed. Honesty might have been met with criticism, neglect, or harsh judgment, teaching the young mind that openness carries risk. Lies, however small, offered a shield, an invisible armor to navigate fear, maintain approval, or avoid conflict. Over time, protective deception became a learned survival mechanism. Others experienced inconsistent care, emotional unpredictability, or unreliable authority figures. In such homes, children may have felt the need to control perception, exaggerate, or fabricate stories to secure attention, validation, or connection. Lying becomes a way to negotiate uncertain emotional terrain, a strategy to assert some sense of control in a world that feels unstable. Trauma and shame also leave their imprint. Early experiences of humiliation, failure, or rejection may ingrain the belief that truth exposes vulnerability, and vulnerability invites harm. To survive emotionally, the compulsive liar learns to construct narratives that protect self-esteem, deflect scrutiny, or obscure perceived flaws. In this sense, lying becomes an act of emotional preservation, a way to navigate a world that feels threatening to the fragile sense of self. Social and cultural factors contribute as well. Societies often reward success, confidence, and competence while condemning failure or imperfection. Children and adolescents internalize these messages, learning that acceptance is conditional. Compulsive lying emerges as a tool to align perceived reality with societal expectations, an attempt to appear stronger, more capable, or more admirable than internal experience might allow. Personality traits can amplify these tendencies. Sensitivity, imagination, or heightened self-consciousness may predispose someone to fabrications that protect inner vulnerability. The mind naturally seeks ways to avoid discomfort, and for some, creating alternate narratives becomes an instinctive response to perceived threats. These tendencies are rarely malicious, they are survival strategies formed in response to unmet needs, fear, and uncertainty. Family dynamics can reinforce patterns across generations. Children who observe parents or siblings bending truth to navigate relationships may internalize similar behaviors. Lies are modeled as tools of negotiation and self-protection, and the boundary between reality and fabrication becomes flexible. Compulsive lying thus evolves as a learned, repeated pattern, reinforced both internally and socially. Understanding origins is not about assigning blame, it is about insight. Compulsive lying is rarely an innate flaw, it is a behavioral response to environment, experience, and internalized fear. It is the mind's attempt to manage risk, protect identity, and negotiate emotional needs when honesty felt unsafe or insufficient. By tracing the roots of this behavior, we glimpse the complexity beneath the surface, the interplay of fear, shame, environmental pressures, and early relational patterns. These origins illuminate why lying can become habitual patterns become compulsive, and why the compulsive liar often struggles with the same tensions that shaped their earliest adaptations. Between truth, perception, and survival, beneath every compulsive lie lies a network of psychological mechanisms, complex, intertwined processes that guide thought, emotion, and behavior. These mechanisms are rarely conscious in full. They operate beneath awareness, shaping perception and action with subtle precision. Understanding them allows us to see the compulsive liar not as a simple deceiver, but as a human mind caught between self-protection and exposure. At the core is the protection of self-image. Compulsive liars often harbor fragile self-esteem or deep-seated insecurities. Even small truths that expose perceived inadequacies can feel threatening. Lying becomes a defense, a tool to manage risk and preserve identity. Each fabrication, however minor, functions as armor against judgment, rejection, or shame, offering temporary relief from vulnerability. Cognitive processes reinforce the behavior. The compulsive liar's brain becomes adept at creating plausible narratives, linking events, and anticipating the perceptions of others. Lies are rehearsed internally, often unconsciously, to maintain coherence, reduce contradiction, and manage social impression. This mental rehearsal is exhausting but habitual. Repetition strengthens neural pathways, making deception instinctive over time. Emotional regulation plays a central role. Compulsive lying often emerges in response to uncomfortable emotions, fear, guilt, embarrassment, or inadequacy. Rather than tolerating these feelings, the mind deflects or obscures them through narrative alteration. Lies serve as an emotional buffer, a way to avoid distress while appearing composed or competent. In this way, deception becomes a strategy for coping with internal turbulence. Reward and reinforcement further entrench patterns. When lies achieve their purpose, avoiding conflict, gaining approval, or evading consequence, the behavior is positively reinforced. Conversely, lies may be discovered, resulting in shame or guilt, which paradoxically can increase future deception as a preemptive protective measure. Over time, the cycle of lie reinforcement and internal tension consolidates, transforming occasional fabrication into compulsive behavior. Attachment style also influences mechanisms. Those with insecure or anxious attachment may lie to maintain relational closeness, to avoid abandonment, or to appear favorable to others. Avoidant attachment can produce lies that conceal vulnerability or maintain distance. In both cases, deception is a strategy for negotiating relationships and perceived threats shaped by early experiences of trust, neglect, or inconsistency. Neurological and personality factors contribute subtle undercurrents. Some individuals may possess high cognitive flexibility or social intelligence, allowing them to manipulate narratives with skill. Others may experience heightened sensitivity to social evaluation, increasing the perceived risk of truth-telling. These traits interact with environmental conditioning to produce habitual lying as a pragmatic, albeit maladaptive, strategy. Guilt and self-awareness coexist uneasily with compulsion. Many compulsive liars recognize, at least partially, that their behavior is harmful, yet feel powerless to stop. The mechanisms that protect self-image simultaneously generate tension, shame, and internal conflict. This duality, protection and self-reproach, is a hallmark of compulsive lying, illustrating the intricate interplay between mind, emotion, and behavior. Ultimately, the psychological mechanisms of compulsive lying reveal a mind negotiating vulnerability, fear, and self-preservation. These are not merely tools of deception, they are adaptations, strategies, and coping devices shaped by experience, emotion, and cognition. Understanding these mechanisms offers insight into the compulsive liar's inner world, illuminating both the fragility and ingenuity that underlay this complex human behavior. The web of deception spun by a compulsive liar rarely remains confined to the mind. It reaches outward, shaping relationships, trust, and social perception. Lies, even when seemingly small or inconsequential, have a cumulative effect. They ripple across interactions, subtly altering how others relate, respond, and perceive the liar, often leaving emotional scars that endure long after the truth is revealed. Trust is the first casualty. Relationships thrive on reliability and authenticity. When lies become habitual, even minor inconsistencies can erode confidence. Friends, partners, and colleagues sense the dissonance, the invisible tension between words and reality. Over time, the compulsive liar is perceived as unpredictable, unreliable, or ungrounded, creating an undercurrent of suspicion that complicates intimacy and communication. Emotional intimacy suffers. Vulnerability requires honesty, yet habitual deception creates barriers. Partners may feel they cannot fully know the liar, that emotional exchanges are filtered through an invisible veil of fabrication. This lack of transparency can provoke frustration, alienation, and emotional distance. Children growing up with a compulsive liar may internalize similar patterns, learning to question or doubt what they are told, shaping their own relational expectations and attachment styles. Social bonds also fracture subtly. Friends or colleagues may unconsciously compensate, fact-check, or second-guess statements, which generate strain in otherwise ordinary interactions. Lies may be told to gain advantage, to impress, or to avoid criticism. Yet even these strategic fabrications erode authentic connection. The liar becomes both a participant in and a victim of the tension, caught between desire for acceptance and fear of exposure. Professional and family dynamics are not immune. In workplaces, habitual lying can damage credibility, undermine teamwork, and limit advancement. In families, it can create miscommunication, misunderstandings, and conflict. While some lies may be intended to protect or shield, the cumulative effect is confusion and imbalance, a persistent uncertainty that colors every interaction. Interestingly, compulsive liars often form defensive strategies to preserve connection despite deception. Humor, charm, and charisma can temporarily mask distrust. Explanations, apologies, or self-deprecating acknowledgement of minor falsehoods can placate suspicion. Yet these strategies rarely resolve the underlying tension, because trust is built on consistency, not negotiation. Repeated exposure to deception slowly weakens relational resilience. Children in particular are deeply affected. They may experience cognitive dissonance when observing contradictions, emotional conflict when reconciling admiration with suspicion, and behavioral modeling of avoidance or dishonesty as a means of coping. Even subtle lies shape how children perceive truth, honesty, and relational expectation, leaving patterns that echo into adulthood. The impact is not solely external, it loops back to the layer themselves. Compulsive lying often generates stress, guilt, and social anxiety. Relationships that rely on deception require constant mental management, rehearsing narratives, monitoring consistency, and anticipating discovery. The liar becomes trapped in a self-reinforcing cycle. Deception designed to maintain connection ultimately strains it, creating more need for lies and further deepening relational distance. In observing these effects, one sees the fragile architecture of trust and intimacy, and how habitual deception undermines it. The compulsive liar's relationships are simultaneously nurtured and destabilized, a delicate balance between desire for closeness and the compulsive need to obscure truth. Understanding this impact reveals not only the cost to others, but the emotional weight carried by the liar, highlighting the profound psychological consequences of a life lived between truth and fabrication. Within the compulsive liar, there exists a constant tension, a delicate struggle between truth and fabrication, authenticity and self-preservation. This inner conflict is rarely silent. It manifests as guilt, shame, anxiety, and the quiet awareness that each lie, no matter how small, carries a weight that touches both self and others. Many compulsive liars are acutely aware, at least on some level, that their behavior is harmful. They notice the subtle distrust in the eyes of others, the hesitancy in conversations, or the distance that grows when truth is elusive. Yet awareness alone does not always break the pattern. Compulsion often outweighs intention as the mechanisms of habit, fear, and self-protection continue to exert influence. Guilt and shame are intertwined. Guilt arises from recognition of harm caused, the lies that mislead, distort, or betray trust. Shame, deeper and more pervasive, attacks the self. I am deceitful. I am unworthy. I cannot be trusted. This duality creates emotional tension that compounds the psychological burden, making the liar both aware and trapped, capable of insight yet constrained by compulsion. Cognitive dissonance intensifies the struggle. The compulsive liar holds simultaneous truths. They recognize the value of honesty, yet find themselves repeatedly distorting reality. This conflict generates mental and emotional strain, a persistent internal friction that colors perception, decision-making, and social interaction. Every conversation becomes a balancing act between disclosure and concealment. Fear is an ever-present companion. Fear of judgment, rejection, and vulnerability drives repetition. Lying is often a preemptive strategy, a way to avoid anticipated criticism or disappointment. Ironically, the attempt to protect self-image through falsehood frequently undermines the very trust the liar seeks to preserve, reinforcing the cycle of tension and compulsion. Some compulsive liars develop partial coping strategies. They rationalize behavior, downplay the impact of lies, or justify deception as necessary for protection or social survival. These strategies provide temporary relief, but do not resolve the underlying conflict. Awareness of harm persists, even as habitual deception continues, creating a feedback loop of tension, guilt, and repetition. Interestingly, this internal struggle can be a seed for change. Recognition of the pattern combined with discomfort at its consequences opens the possibility for reflection and intervention. Compulsive liars who confront their behavior with honesty, even small acts of transparency, begin to recalibrate the inner balance, acknowledging vulnerability while experimenting with authenticity. Ultimately, inner conflict defines the compulsive liar's experience. It is a landscape of tension between fear and intention, habit and reflection, protection and harm. Each lie carries echoes of past experiences, emotional need, and anticipatory anxiety, forming a psychological pattern that is both entrenched and mutable. Understanding this inner world requires empathy. The compulsive liar is caught in a cycle of compulsion, awareness, and consequence, struggling with self-image, relationships, and the emotional cost of deception. In recognizing this tension, we glimpse the profound human complexity beneath habitual lying, the simultaneous desire to connect, protect, and preserve self, and the painful realization that the very tools used to navigate life may obscure rather than illuminate truth. Even habitual patterns as entrenched as compulsive lying are not immutable. Change begins quietly, with awareness, reflection, and incremental action. For the compulsive liar, transformation is less about punishment or moral correction, and more about understanding the mechanisms that drive behavior and consciously creating space for honesty. The first step is self-recognition. A compulsive liar must observe patterns without judgment, noticing the triggers, emotions, and situations that prompt deception. This observation is not about self-criticism, it is about creating awareness. By recognizing the context in which lies emerge, fear of judgment, shame, desire for acceptance, the liar begins to disentangle compulsion from conscious choice. Therapeutic intervention can provide support and structure. Cognitive behavioral approaches, for example, help identify distorted thinking, challenge habitual rationalizations, and practice honesty in controlled ways. Therapy allows the compulsive liar to explore underlying fears, traumas, and insecurities, providing insight into why deception became a coping mechanism and how it can be replaced with conscious, authentic strategies. Incremental honesty is key. Change does not occur through immediate transparency in all situations. Small acts, acknowledging minor truths, admitting uncertainty, or gently correcting a previous misstatement, gradually rebuild neural pathways and emotional comfort with authenticity. Each small success reinforces the possibility of a life less dominated by compulsion. Developing emotional regulation and tolerance for vulnerability is essential. Much of compulsive lying stems from discomfort with exposure, fear of rejection, criticism, or shame. Learning to sit with these emotions without resorting to deception is a profound step toward change. Mindfulness, reflective practices, or journaling can help create awareness of emotion before automatic responses arise, allowing for intentional, honest action. Rebuilding trust in relationships is a parallel process. Compulsive liars must navigate the consequences of prior behavior, often experiencing skepticism or doubt from others. Consistency, patience, and reliability in small interactions can slowly restore confidence, creating an environment where honesty is both safe and valued. Forgiveness, of self and from others, becomes an essential component of the process. Accountability strengthens progress, Sharing intentions, establishing transparent practices, and seeking feedback create external structures that reinforce internal change. Compulsive lying thrives in secrecy and unmonitored habit. Accountability interrupts the cycle, making each interaction an opportunity to practice integrity and presence. Ultimately, change is not linear. Relapses, hesitation, or discomfort are natural and expected. Yet even these moments provide insight into triggers, emotional states, and cognitive patterns, allowing for further reflection and refinement. Transformation is measured not by perfection, but by the ongoing effort to align behavior with intention and to live with authenticity even amid discomfort. The possibility of change illuminates the human capacity for growth. Compulsive liars are not bound by past behavior. They are capable of learning, reflecting, and reshaping interaction with self and others. Through awareness, honesty, emotional courage, and supportive practice, they can create lives where truth becomes not an occasional act but a habitual, sustaining presence, restoring connection, trust, and self-respect. In this potential lies hope. The compulsive liar can reclaim integrity, not as a sudden revelation, but as a gradual, conscious journey. Lies can give way to honesty, avoidance to presence, and compulsion to intentional action, revealing the profound resilience and adaptability inherent in the human mind. The compulsive liar exists in a liminal space between truth and invention, vulnerability and self-preservation, connection and isolation. Their life is a continuous negotiation with reality, a delicate balance of concealment and revelation. Yet beneath the patterns of deception lies a deeply human story, one of fear, longing, and the desire to be accepted. Each lie carries its own echo, shaping perception and relationships in ways that are often unseen, yet profoundly felt. Friends, partners, and family sense the subtle tension, the invisible fracture between word and reality. Trust bends under the weight of habitual fabrication, yet it is never entirely broken. Human connection has a resilience that persists, even amid uncertainty. Compulsive lying is not simply a moral failing. It is a reflection of fragility, learned strategies, and the mind's attempt to navigate perceived threats. Lies are rarely told for malice alone. They are the echoes of past fear, shame, or insecurity. They are a method of self-preservation, a way to construct safety where the world feels unpredictable, judgmental, or threatening. There is paradoxical beauty in this struggle. The compulsive liar, in their constant negotiation, reveals the complexity of human psychology, the way fear shapes action, the subtle interplay of self-perception and social expectation, and the effort to maintain identity amid uncertainty. Each deception is also a mirror, reflecting vulnerabilities, needs, and aspirations. Yet awareness and reflection open a doorway. Even within habitual patterns, there is the capacity for honesty, for recalibration, for reconnection. Small acts of truth, acknowledged missteps, and conscious engagement with reality can transform patterns over time. Change does not erase the past, but it illuminates the possibility of presence, integrity, and relational repair. Forgiveness, of self and by others, is central to this process. The compulsive liar must navigate not only external skepticism but internal judgment. Compassion for one's own vulnerability becomes a foundation for authentic change. By observing behavior without self-condemnation and by responding with intentional honesty, the compulsive liar can cultivate trust, rebuild connection, and engage more fully with both self and others. Ultimately, the psychology of the compulsive liar teaches a profound truth: human behavior is rarely simple, and actions are rarely devoid of context. Lies are both armor and burden, strategy and limitation. They reveal the ways fear, shame, and unmet needs shape the mind, while also pointing toward the resilience, reflection, and growth possible when these patterns are confronted with awareness. The narrative closes not with judgment, but with understanding. The compulsive liar is not a villain, nor solely a victim. They are a human being navigating the delicate terrain of vulnerability, connection, and identity. Their journey illuminates the fragile balance between protection and authenticity, and the quiet courage required to step from habit into truth. In the end, the story of the compulsive liar is also a story of hope. Through reflection, intention, and conscious effort, deception can yield to honesty, fear to courage, and compulsion to choice. It is a reminder that even amidst the entanglement of lies, the human mind and heart possess the capacity for insight, change, and meaningful connection. And in that capacity lies the possibility for liberation, from patterns, from fear, and ultimately, from the unseen chains that once bound the self.